Dr. Van Fleet is the gentleman who gave me the character. I have heard my character discussed 1,000 times before you were born, sir, and shown the iniquities in it, and you did not get more than half of them. Now, gentlemen of the committee, when I came here, I came with a purpose of some kind, but it is difficult for me to find out now just what it was. These debaters have knocked it all out of my head. They have put my mind in a sort of maze with their scientific terms. I must say that I was both touched and distressed when they brought out that part of a child. I suppose the object of it was to prove that you cannot take a child apart in that way. And I suppose we must concede that they have proved that. Why, sir, when I listen to all those remarkable names of diseases which our learned medical friends have thrown out to us here this afternoon, it made me envious of the man who had them all. I don't suppose I shall ever enjoy the felicity of having them all in the span of life allotted to me, but I am truly thankful for those I have had. I am an experimenter. I have had a number of diseases, but am willing to take more. But I want to distribute them among not only doctors, but the mountebanks. I am so constituted that I want to give everybody a chance. I want to give the mountebank a chance, if you please, and I do not want to have any restrictions put upon my free will when I have that disposition. I could not stand here and advocate osteopathy without knowing much more about it than I do. One of the gentlemen who spoke referred to my having acquired such knowledge of osteopathy as I had in Sweden. That is true. About 1.5 years ago in London, I met Mr. Kellgren, who I believe is the most noted practitioner of this kind abroad. He calls himself Mr. because he has not acquired the privilege of giving a certificate when a patient dies on his hands. He has been practicing in London for 27 years. My meeting with him was quite by chance. I heard of him through a friend of mine whom he had cured of dysentery after eminent physicians had failed to give any relief, and after my friend had been brought close to the point of death. The friend I speak of is Pulteney Bigelow. Now, of course, there may have been some flaw in Mr. Bigelow's cure, but he seemed to me to have been restored to full strength and health, and he himself insisted that he was. I thought he ought to know, though doubtless our medical friends will not agree with me on that point. Now, I am always wanting to try everything that comes along. It doesn't matter much what it is, I want to try it. And so I went to Mr. Kellgren, was treated by him in London and later on in Switzerland, and he did me a lot of good, as I thought, although I must admit that my education doesn't qualify me to say just when I am in good health. I see in the Bell Anti-Christian Science Bill that you permit the grandmother to continue to dose the babe. Well, you couldn't stop her. It is well that you put in that provision. As a matter of fact, we all know that our population is really divided in allegiance between two schools of medicine, the regular physicians and the grandmothers. Now, all I ask is the same liberty you give to the grandmother. The grandmother has been practicing without a license as far as the memory of any one of us goes back. And on the whole, her success has been such that the medical profession is willing to have her continue in practice. I like full liberty to do with my body as I like, to my own peril or to the peril of anyone else. It doesn't matter. I'm not particular as to that. The state stands for liberty, and it doesn't seem likely to change its position and will not interfere with your soul in the matter of health. When my soul is sick, unlimited spiritual liberty is given me by the state. Now then, it doesn't seem logical that the state shall depart from this great policy, the health of the soul, and change about and take the other position in the matter of smaller consequence, the health of the body. Now the Bell bill will drive all the osteopaths out of the state. I suppose if you do drive them out, they will go up to Vermont, which has been characterized as the garbage ground of the profession, and which, since it became that, has also become one of the healthiest states in the Union, and I suppose I can go up there without much trouble. Then you create the same condition as existed in the Garden of Eden. You want something, and it is forbidden. Adam probably didn't want the apple until he found he couldn't have it, just as he would want an osteopath. He was different from the Clemens flock, especially this one. I wouldn't have taken one apple, but the whole crop. I believe we ought to retain all of our liberties. We can't afford to throw any of them away. They didn't come to us in a night like Jonah's gourd, if Jonah was the man who had a gourd. The moment you start to drive anybody out of the state, then you have the same situation which existed in the Garden of Eden. I don't know as I cared much about these osteopaths until I heard you were going to drive them out of the state. But since I heard that, I haven't been able to sleep. Now, what I contend is that my body is my own at least. I have always so regarded it. If I do it harm through my experimenting, it is I who suffer, not the state. And if I indulge in dangerous experiments, the state don't die. I attend to that. I hold my mother responsible for my desire for experiment. She bought any patent medicine that came along, whether she would need it or not, and would try any new disease that happened to be around. She experimented on me. I didn't enjoy it then, but I do now. When my mother heard of a new cure, she didn't select one from the flock haphazardly, no. She chose judiciously, and chose the one she could spare, which was myself. I can remember well when the cold water cure was first talked about. I was then about 9 years old, and I remember how my mother used to stand me up naked in the backyard every morning and throw buckets of cold water on me just to see what effect it would have. Personally, I had no curiosity upon the subject. And then, when the dousing was over, she would wrap me up in a sheet wet with ice water and then wrap blankets around that and put me into bed. I never realized that the treatment was doing me any particular good physically, but it purified me spiritually. Well, pretty soon after I was put into bed, I would get up a perspiration that was something worth seeing. Mother generally put a life preserver in bed with me. And when finally she let me out and unwound the sheet, I remember that it was all covered with yellow color, but that was only the outpourings of my conscience. Just spiritual outpourings, and fortunately it removed all that so that I am not troubled with it now. But I am willing to say that sometimes my mother's experiments had such an effect upon me that she was obliged to call in that ministering angel with the pills to bring me around. And remembering that I do not bar allopathy in my experiments now, no, I am willing to take a chance at that just for old time's sake. My mother 3 times tried new remedies on me, and they left me so low that they had to pull me out by means of the family doctor. I like osteopathy. It is quicker, and you don't have to take any medicine. So I want liberty to do as I choose with my physical body and experiment as much as possible. The physicians think they are moved by regard for the best interests of the public. Isn't there a little touch of self-interest back of it all? It seems to me there is, and I don't claim to have all the virtues, only 9 or 10 of them. I was born in the Banner State, and by Banner State I mean Missouri. I was born there, and so was osteopathy, and both of us are getting along reasonably well, I trust. But in my state, then, the word dispute meant quarreling, and quarreling in anger. Neither did we know of any other kind of a doctor than the one who went around carrying his pills in his saddlebag. Well, one day my father took me to my uncle's house, and he had a picture on the wall of a room showing Christ disputing with the doctors. Now, although I was the model Sunday school boy of our section, I couldn't quite understand that, for to my mind, to dispute meant to quarrel. There was an old slave in the house, Uncle Ben by name, who came into the room when I was revolving the problem of the picture in my mind. I thought perhaps Uncle Ben might be able to enlighten me, for he was a sort of doctor himself, a herb doctor, unlicensed, of course. Uncle Ben, I asked him, what does that picture mean? Christ surely didn't begin the dispute, did he? Nah, the doctors, they began it, he said. And what did they want to quarrel with Christ for? 'Cause he ain't got no license. That's why they say he bust them up in business. That is it. The objection is people are curing people without a license, and you are afraid it will bust up business. You ought to compromise so you can all get a chance at these people around here.